Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sebastian Tremblay, and I will be your moderator. Before we begin, please note that this press conference includes simultaneous and sign language interpretation services. It is available either in full French or in full English. If you are watching live, you can find our stream in each language on YouTube. Simply search our channels at City of Ottawa or Ville d'Ottawa. A note to media outlets joining us on Zoom, if you would like audio interpretation, click the interpretation globe icon in the bottom menu, then select your preferred language. You can ask your questions in the language of your choice. Today, we will be hearing remarks from Renee Amilcar, General Manager, Transit Services Department, and Richard Holder, Director, Engineering Services. Available to answer questions from the media, we also have Nicolas Truchon, Chief Executive Officer, Rideau Transit Group, and Enrique Martinez, General Manager of Rideau Transit Maintenance. At this time, I would like to invite Renee Amilcar, General Manager of the Transit Services Department, to say a few words.
Merci beaucoup, Sébastien. Bonjour tout le monde. Good evening, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
I would much rather be meeting with all of you to celebrate our recent success with Canada Day and Blues Fest. We had been preparing to share good news about our transit operated during those events. However, today's update will focus on the current state of O-Train Line 1. Thank you for joining us to discuss the current status. I'm joined by Richard Holder, and Nicolas and Enrique are here as well, as mentioned. Today, I will provide a brief explanation on what has led us to where we are and what customers can expect moving forward. Yesterday, an axle bearing issue was detected during routine maintenance. After learning this, we made the decision to suspend service on Line 1. Every vehicle was removed from the line, and Alstom is investigating every vehicle out of an abundance of caution. I want you to know that every single axle will be carefully inspected and we will not resume service until I'm convinced it is safe for our customers and our staff. Over the past few years, OC Transpo has made significant organizational changes and brought on additional oversight. This includes the creation of our in-house engineering services team and a new chief safety officer. We have an integrated team with the Rideau Transit Group and many other stakeholders that are working together under a new relationship. Our team is committed to transparency and will continue to provide updates as soon as we have information to share. While we may not have all of the answers today, we would like to share what we do know at this time. So, during a routine 50,000 kilometer inspection of one of the light rail vehicles, excess grease was discovered on one axle. An investigation was launched and an axle check was conducted. This check determined that the identified bearing issue was over the threshold that is required for the train to stay in operation. Line 1 service was immediately suspended in order to allow a full investigation of the fleet. As the investigation is underway, we must keep our city moving. Here is what our customers can expect moving forward. Air-run bus replacement service is running between Tunis Pasteur and Blaise stations. It began this morning at 5 a.m. with 12 buses providing service every 10 minutes. During peak periods, we will have 28 buses providing service approximately every 5 minutes. Our Transit Operations Control Center is working with field staff to balance operating air-run service while minimizing the impacts on the rest of our bus network. Additional staff and signage have been deployed to all major stations to help support our customers. Regular updates will continue to be provided to customers on our social media and posted on our website. In closing, I would like to speak directly to our customers. We understand the disappointment that many of you experienced yesterday evening. I recognize that an unplanned change to your commute at the end of a long day made the day even longer. Temporarily stopping Line 1 service was an extremely difficult decision, but it was the right thing to do. We will never jeopardize the safety of our customers and employees. Please know that we appreciate your understanding as we prioritize safety above all else. I have said it before, and I will say it again. Your safety is our top priority. I will be the first person on the train as soon as it resumes service. If the train is not safe, we will not run it. Je serai la première passagère à prendre le train.
I will be the first person going on board when we will resume service. If the train is not safe, we will suspend the service again.
The processes and the plans that are currently in place. We are working together as a team to ensure the long-term sustainability and reliability of the system. While we cannot provide a service resumption date at this time, we have experts here today that can speak to the key activities that are underway. We will be sharing more information in the coming days as further information becomes available. You know, since I arrived at OC Transpo, we have undergone a lot of changes. We have built new and solid relationships with our partners, and we have begun building our engineering team. Together, we are working guided by our commitment to transparency and cooperation. I would now like to invite Richard Holder to discuss about the ongoing investigation with RTG. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Renee. I will now provide an update on the ongoing work that is occurring. I know that the suspension of Line 1 service is frustrating for customers. It's very frustrating for us as well, but we will not take any shortcuts in the investigation work that is taking place. There are currently three key areas of activities relating to the ongoing investigation. The first area of work involves inspecting the track and the fleet. A track inspection from end to end has already been completed and with no issues found. And later today, a digital geometric survey will be undertaken. For the fleet, every hub of every axle of every train needs to be inspected. Vehicle inspections are looking for signs of grease on the hubs, and then detailed checks will determine if the wear and tear on the axle is greater than the limits allowed. To date, 5 full trains have been inspected and no issues have been identified. The second key area of the work is related to the instrumented bogie testing. Customers will see a train on the track over the next few days. This train is not in service, but is fitted with equipment to measure the forces and loads on the axles of the train. This provides key data to understand the wear and tear on the wheel hub assembly of the trains, and is valuable input into the determination of the root cause and the conditions necessary for a safe return to service. The third key area of work is the return to service plan. RTG, Alstom and the city are working on scenarios to resume passenger service. It is critical that Alstom establishes the requirements of the safety regime that will allow passenger service to resume. All axle hubs need to be inspected, and data from the instrumented bogie testing needs to be analyzed prior to the return to service plan being finalized. The team is working round the clock to expedite this work, and we will assess progress day by day. Additional progress is required in these three key areas, and an understanding of root cause is needed before an expected time for safe resumption of service can be provided. As Renee has said, if the train is not safe, we will not run it. I will now hand it back to Sébastien.
Thank you, Richard. I will now invite each media agency to ask their questions. You may ask one question with one follow-up. We'll now start with Elise Skura at CBC Ottawa.
Thank you very much. So when the inquiry was looking into this issue and others, it was brought up concerns that these trains built for an LRT were basically being run more like a subway, fast and hard. I was wondering, how concerned are people there that that the system is just not ready to have a very heavy load train running at that speed, like the kind that we saw after the crowds let out at Blues Fest this week?
Richard?
Yeah, thank you for the question. This is a complex issue that has required input from many experts and includes extensive investigations into the vehicle and track conditions and on-track testing programs. So up to now, over the last couple of years, several important reports have been prepared. We have a report from MXV Rail, which is part of the Association of American Railroads, that has provided a detailed review of the track infrastructure. This report looks closely at the railhead, the use of friction modifiers, the rail neutral temperature and special track work. We have the National Research Council involved in this investigation, and they've prepared a report on the wheel-rail interface. The media will be aware that the Transportation Safety Board has been involved. They have provided a report for the derailment of LRV 19 in 2021, and also a safety advisory letter regarding the LRV 27 axle hub failure in 2022. In addition, Alstom has undertaken several instrumented bogie tests, and RTG has implemented several improvements to the track, including track replacement, rail grinding, gauge resetting, and tunnel leak remediation. The city continues to work with RTG and Alstom closely. Up until yesterday, we had a safety note from Alstom that provided for safe passenger service. That situation is currently under review with the current investigation.
And sorry to clarify, are you looking at whether the overcrowding or having too many people this past week might have provided the unprecedented pressures?
I can say that part of the ongoing instrumented bogie testing will be looking at different loading scenarios, which will include the type of loading that was experienced during Blues Festival.
Okay, thank you very much. And now it's been almost 2 years since the derailment that saw similar issues with bearings, and we still have not gotten an analysis of the root cause. How much longer do we have to wait for that analysis and for a permanent solution that's going to ensure that the transit system works as people expect?
Thank you for the question. And as Richard said, we have conducted a lot of tests, and we're still working with RTM, RTG, and Alstom. And we think that now we are very close to get the final root cause, and that's why we have to continue to run this instrumented bogie test, and we will be able to provide more info as soon as we will get them.
And how long until the permanent solution is rolled out?
It's hard to say today because But for sure, we will, as soon as we will have the info, we will share it with you. But now the most important is to have the right root cause to make sure that we can handle the situation.
Okay, thank you. Could you also repeat that in French? My apologies.
Il n'y a pas de problème. Pouvez-vous répéter la question?
Yes, sorry. How much longer will we have to wait for the root cause analysis, and when will the permanent solution be found? Sorry, if you could answer in French.
OK, merci. Donc, comme mon collègue Richard Holder,
Like I said before, my colleague Richard Holder said, we've asked many specialists and experts for their opinion. We talked to different stakeholders at the same time. We have an instrumented boogie right now on the tracks. We're trying to identify the exact cause of the failure. When we will have an answer, it will be shared. And then we will tell you what will be the solution as well as a date.
Thank you, merci. We'll now go to
Thank you so much. Head Raymond, CFRA.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Sure can, you can go ahead.
All right, excellent. My first question is for Renee Amilcar. This was an unprecedented move on your part to shut down service in the middle of rush hour because of what you had found in this inspection. So my question is, how serious was this finding, and how concerned were you that a derailment or something similar could have happened yesterday if you hadn't taken that action?
Thank you for the question. This decision has been taken with all the stakeholders for sure, RTG, or RTM also, and I'm the one who has the final word, and there is no risk to take. And I was firm a few months ago when I said I take the train because the train is safe. So when we have a doubt, we have to stop the train and we have to proceed with the inspection. So that's exactly what we have done yesterday. And I'm proud of that because I didn't want to take any chance with our customers and with our employees.
But what risk was there that prompted this decision? I mean, you know, it's the middle of rush hour. You just abruptly shut down the train service, tell everybody to get out of the stations, off the trains, onto buses that aren't even there yet. You know, because of this bearing that issue that you found, you know, was there a risk, or did you believe there was a reasonable possibility that something catastrophic could have happened if you hadn't shut the system down? What prompted the decision to shut the system down?
Statistically speaking, the answer is no. However, I have committed to customers, to my employees, that if I have a doubt, I will stop the system. So based on what we have found, we have taken that decision at this time because we have threshold and we were above our threshold, which is not what we are expected. So that's why we have stopped the system, to make sure that we inspect all the fleet and to understand what happened, because we have mitigation measures in place to avoid that. So when we think that we cannot continue to provide this oversight with the mitigation measure in place, even if we're not sure if something will happen, we have to take that decision.
Thank you, Ted. We're going to go to Colton Prail at CTV.
Hi, sorry about that. Can you hear me all right?
Sure can. Go ahead.
Awesome. It's been 2 years since we've been dealing with bearing and axle related issues. Can OC Transpo RTG Alstom confidently say and reasonably say that this is a solvable problem? You mentioned that we're close to getting a root cause, but it's been 2 years and we've had multiple derailments and, as Ted just mentioned, an unprecedented shutdown. So are you confident that there's a solution out there?
I would ask Enrique to answer to that question, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Renee. Yeah, absolutely. As Richard said previously, we have a number of experts and third-party engineering services, and probably the best companies in the sector working on this. We also have Alstom, one of the most important manufacturers of rolling stock, with a huge experience in the development of this specific kind of vehicles. So yes, we are confident that we can find a solution to the problem and that solution can be implemented. We are working hard in that regard in cooperation with the city and other stakeholders, and we believe that we are very, very close to that sustainable solution.
Politely though, what's changed in the last 2 years? You've all been working on this that entire time.
Yeah, as we previously said, the problem is complicated, it's really complex because of the number of systems that are integrated in a train. You can imagine that when an incident happens, it's an oddity, and it's extremely complicated to get information from something that happens only once. So all the studies, analysis, tests that we are performing are focused on trying to get information from that incident and try to reproduce the conditions where that happened. This is why this is taking so long. A lot of information has been coming from the previous 2 years that has been analyzed and shared with the different experts, and now we are closer to getting that solution.
Awesome. For my second question, you mentioned earlier about the measures that were taken to minimize damage, rail grinding, speed reduction, for example. Despite that, we still are seeing this bearing issue earlier than expected. Did those reduction measures not have the intended impact? Are we seeing a reduction in their efficacy? Why, even after those reduction measures, are we still seeing these issues occur?
I believe that this is exactly the reason why in a joint decision, we decided to stop the system. We have a number of measures in place. Up to this moment, these measures have been effective. The proof of that effectiveness of the measures is that we are not having incidents in the past almost 2 years, one and a half years. It means that the measures in place are working. The fact that we found a bearing that escaped from that tests and that verifications is what made us think about the potential scenario where some of these measures should be rethink and redesigned because maybe are not as effective as we expected. So this is why up to this moment we were very confident about the effectiveness of the mitigation plan. But the fact that this bearing appeared with a failure was not detected in the previous stages is why we decided to rethink the mitigation plan.
Thank you, Colton. On va maintenant à Boris Proulx avec Le Devoir.
Bonjour, j'ai une question.
Hello, everyone. It's a general question. Can you go back to the launching of the O-Train in 2019? Would you do something different? If you could. Nicholas? Answer? I'll answer in French. Thank you for your question. It's very difficult to answer to an hypothetical question or situation. Right now, the problem we're facing is not a new problem. It's a problem that keeps on going. We've put in place some measures, but I will repeat what my colleague Enrique just said. We trust that we are close to a solution, but we think that it's not going to be one single solution. It's not going to be quick. It will be a number of measures that we'll have to deploy to ensure the safety of this system. The problem that we have with the bearing today, it's something that we could not have anticipated in 2019. It's an interface between the rail and the train. There are many forces there, and we have to analyze the data. We understand that it's been a long process, but we have to go by elimination. We cannot just jump on the first element that we find. Technically, we have to look at this problem in its whole. With the incident yesterday, we have new data. As the responsible operator, we have to take into account every information that we have. We have to evaluate the efficiency of our measures. And this is where we are today. It's a combination of inspection, data collection. Afterwards, we will know if the system is safe to resume service. Follow-up question? Over 4 years, you faced many issues, more than expected, and some that were impossible to anticipate, the one with the wheel bearing. Montreal will be launching its own light train system. If you would have to say something to another city, what would you say? Who will answer? Please go ahead, Nicolas Truchon. A train is a train for the end user. We understand that every single system, every single vehicle have its own specificity. We have to adapt the vehicle and the infrastructure to the operating conditions. Nowadays, we have to use the experience of our specialists, the ones who are involved in this process. Thank you so much. Let's give the floor to Julien Paquette, Le Droit. Thank you. I understand that you finished with the rail inspection and you're almost done with the vehicle inspection. When are you going to launch the service again? Are you going to start the service with fewer trains on track? Answer. Thank you for your question. For us, it's very clear. First of all, we have to inspect every single train, every segment at the same time. We have a train that's rolling. It's what we call a test, a rolling test. The result will be analyzed. We will try to understand what happened with that very specific vehicle yesterday. Afterwards, we will talk about service launching. I will provide you with more information every single day. You will be up to date and you will know what is going on. Thank you so much. Follow-up question? So you won't be able to provide us with an update in the next few hours. Question. There are many procedures linked with the inspection, isn't it? This is in partnership with RTG, RTM. It's almost 2 years following the derailments. Yesterday, you decided to suspend the service. Is it a procedure that was put in place after the revision of every single processes? Can you explain? Is it clear? I understand your question. Julien, there's not a pre-established decision tree. We're using the information that we have. We have measures, mitigation measures in place while we're trying to find the cause. When our mitigation measures were not enough to identify a potential failure, we have to understand what happened in one incident. Maybe we went a little bit quickly on top of that. We have to proceed to thousands of tests. Like I said previously, we're not taking any risk. So it was one single train that didn't react correctly to the mitigation measures. We're not taking any risks. We just removed and suspended the whole service. And then we'll just go back to the drawing table. Thank you.
Citizen.
Hi, can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you give me an estimate of how long it will take before riders will be back on the trains? Or if you can't give me an estimate, what are the factors behind the process that will have to take place?
Thank you for the question. So we will need to inspect all the fleet, and we will need to get data from the instrumented bogie. And daily, I will send memo to make sure that to keep you update, and we'll continue to move forward like that.
So are we talking like hours, days, a week, like just a range of time?
It won't be today, so tomorrow I will give an update.
Okay. Also, it's a question for Richard. What is a bogey test exactly? Or short explanation?
Yeah, thanks for the questions. So we have one of our vehicles, our LRVs, LRV 47, which is fitted with a number of different instruments. They both measure the accelerations within the vehicle, but they also actually measure loads. So we have strain gauges on the axle within the hub assembly. And so we are accurately gathering data on the performance of the vehicle. So how fast it's moving, how it's behaving within the curves, and as it negotiates special track work. But we are simultaneously recording the impact of that behavior on the loads within the assembly of the bogies, the axles and hub assemblies themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. On va maintenant à Jean-Sébastien Marier avec Radio-Canada.
Jean-Sébastien, Radio-Canada. Please go ahead. A question for Madame Amilcar. You said that you were going to have an answer to all of the issues in 2024. The R1 bus service is not as fast as the train, with a lot of delays. Sometimes you have to wait for 30 minutes. Do you think that you will have to look again at your contingency plans? Answer? Thank you for a question. We have to have a more reliable train. That's the reason why we have the train in place. That's what I'm focusing on. This being said, my team is working with the other teams within the city of Ottawa, with traffic teams, actually. How can we reduce traffic with our buses? But we understand we have to keep on working to have a very reliable train and use it as much as possible. Follow-up question? We don't know when the train will be repaired. People have to leave earlier to go to work. I understand that we want people to use transit. That the line 1 works or not, these are delays important for employees. But it seems that we don't have a concrete answer for you. Answer? I have early morning meetings with all my teams every day. We understand there might be more traffic with the buses. The control room is working 24 hours a day every day. We will continue to add on buses, but as you know, the R1 buses means that other routes will not be as well serviced. We will look into our mitigation plans for the R1 route, but it's clear, buses will never replace the train. We understand that. We might have to put more buses, work with my colleagues at the City of Ottawa, trying to reduce the transit time.
Sure. So I will continue to work with my colleagues in the city with traffic. It's a good example to see what we can do to at least reduce the commute time. And we'll continue to monitor with the TOCC to see what we can do for customers if we have crowded at certain stations.
Merci. On va maintenant à Louis-Charles Poulain avec TVA Ottawa-Gatineau.
Louis-Charles Poulain, TVA, Ottawa. Hello, everyone. I know you've talked about potential risks that was underlying your decision to suspend the train service. Can you repeat in French what you've said previously? You proceeded with a routine inspection on a train. And you said that the bearings was over the imposed threshold. Answer? As you know, we have mitigation measures in place. We're proceeding with inspections. We will have to look at the bearing. This inspection had been done 8 days prior to the circulation of that train. That vehicle needed to be inspected after 50,000 kilometers. This is a compulsory inspection. It's a routine inspection. It's part of our plan. When it was time to do that, we saw that there was some grease under the vehicle, and this was unexpected. We proceeded to other tests, and then we saw that we had an issue with a bearing. We did apply the mitigation measures, and it worked because it was within the tolerance levels that we have. Unfortunately, with the second inspection, we were over the threshold. We had to see what happened on one single vehicle. It is one single incident. Follow-up question? What will happen tomorrow with the R1 service? Some users had difficulties to navigate the system. Will you have something different on the ground? How can you improve service for end users? Answer. I'm a little bit surprised. I made sure that we had the staff at every single station as well as posters. But what happened? If you're at, let's say, the Ottawa station, it might be a little bit more difficult to find the bus. But we do have posters. We have people on the ground. They are wearing a red vest. It's easier to see them. We also have people within the control room. And then we have an overload somewhere. We're going to put more buses. But at the same time, we have to offer the service throughout the city of Ottawa.
We will now go to Robert Hiltz at the Ottawa Lookout.
Hi, good afternoon. I guess I wanted to start off with, you talked about the inspection being routine. Does that mean that this was not a one of the inspections specifically of the bearings, but of the train itself?
It's correct.
Okay. Do you know how long it had been since that particular train had its bearings inspected?
8 days.
8 days. Okay. So it is the appearance of this grease, then that was a serious change in that week or so, which is why everything had to be shut down.
Richard, can you comment on that, please?
So the 50,000 K inspection that was undertaken involves a visual inspection of the underbody of the vehicle. And as part of that visual inspection, the grease was noticed. And so that then triggered a further investigation. And you may have heard us talk in the past about the pry bar test. So we physically need to lift the train up on jacks and make an assessment of any looseness within the bearing itself to check for the wear and tear within the axle hub. And it was during that detailed inspection that we discovered that the limits of that looseness had been exceeded. So we were not able to run that vehicle with passenger service and meet the requirements of the safety note from Alstom.
Okay, and I guess my second question is about the surveys of the track and the instrumented bogie testing. Was any of that done in the June sort of maintenance shutdown? And what are you looking for there? Are you looking for changes? Like, is there something you've missed previously? I'm just trying to understand like why that's being done now and whether it's sort of been done previously or never before.
Enrique or Richard? Richard, you good to go?
Yes, so we've had a number of instrumented bogie testing programs. We were just at the end of a testing program that has been undertaken for the last 2 weeks. In terms of, the advantage of this instrumented testing regime, what we're looking for is replicating real world scenarios, but being able to test safely at night when we're not carrying passengers. So for the last couple of weeks, we've been undertaking a number of scenarios, making changes to the track infrastructure and assessing what the impact is on the vehicles. Once this issue was realized yesterday, then Alstom immediately brought forward the idea of undertaking further instrumented bogie testing. We have suspended the fleet, so the mainline track is now available for undertaking this testing during the day. And there are some opportunities for us now to assess the conditions again during real time with real world conditions such as the hot temperatures that we're experiencing during the summer.
Right, and just one part of my question that I think was missed was just about the surveying of the track itself. What are you looking for there?
Well, there were two components to that. There was the visual walkthrough that was undertaken throughout the night and into this morning. So we're just looking for any anomalies, but particularly the special track work. So the switches, the crossovers, we have extra rails at the expansion joint on the Rideau River crossing. We have restraining rails at some of the tight curves at Herdman and also within the station areas. So that visual inspection is just taking a look to make sure there's no anomalies that can be seen by the track inspectors. In addition to that work, we're undertaking a detailed geometric review of the line. So we will be taking out a piece of equipment that will accurately measure the gauge of the track, so the width between the rails, and it will also provide the height of the rails respective to each other and other details that will all come back as well as the information from the instrumented bogie testing to form part of the analysis that we can use hopefully to get to the root cause and start to look at what conditions do we need to have in place for a safe return to service.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Robert. We actually have a bit of time for a couple of extra questions. So if you do have an additional question, please raise your hand. As I mentioned, we only have time for a couple more, so I'll give it a moment. Oh yes, and use the raise hand function. There you go. Ted at CFR, Ted Raymond, go ahead.
Yeah, my additional question, I guess, is for Renee Amilcar. Just curious in terms of what kind of compensation are you prepared to offer for riders because of this disruption, especially if it lasts, several days or possibly even weeks? Is there any kind of compensation for Presto Pass users or things like that you can offer?
Thank you, Ted, for the question. So now I think my first goal is to restart the service. And after that, we will discuss internally to see if we can do something. But the service is provided. It's not by the train, but we are using the buses, and we will continue to improve the service, and we will continue to work on the root cause analysis to make sure that we can bring back the trains on service as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ted. On va aller à Julien Paquette, à le droit.
Oui, bonjour. Juste pour être 100% clair, est-ce que c'est possible de nous...
Question suivie. Follow-up question. You said last night that this incident happened in the past. Can you confirm when? When did you have a similar issues? Answer. In August 2021, there was a derailment with the vehicle LVR-19. Last year, there was another incident. We heard a noise. Then the operator said that he had heard a noise. When we proceed with the analysis, we saw there was some loose in the bearing. And then we integrated this in our regular inspection. That's the reason why we're proceeding to routine inspections. So we saw this bearing issue 3 times, but it's not always quite exactly the same issue. It can be so many factors. That's the reason why it takes us so long to find the right solution. That's the reason why we will proceed with other tests with our stakeholders.
Time for one final question, so we will go to Elise Skura at CBC.
Hi, yes, sorry. I'm just picking up on something that was said about the heat issue. I know that the TSB and the inquiry and things had mentioned the need for better heat sensors, but there had been some issues with the way that the train is constructed to have those in. Has any solution been found to better monitor the heat issue?
Richard?
So in relation to the information we've received back from TSB, they're certainly very keen on the city and RTG implementing some sort of condition monitoring system for the hubs. So there has been heat detection proposed, and we have previously talked about the fact that on similar LRT systems around the world, heat detection is not used as a condition monitor. What we are doing and what we're doing at the moment is we're in the middle of a pilot program, and it has been underway for many months now, where we are using a piece of equipment called a smart bug that is an accelerometer, and we have that attached on the axles of 4 vehicles, and we are continually assessing the vibration levels that are occurring, and if there is a trigger in the vibration level, then we investigate further. Up to now, those vibration monitors have not given us the kind of information that we're really seeking, so that pilot program is still underway. Associated with that work, we are doing further work with the National Research Council to undertake a test at their facility using a test rig within their facility to test one of our Citadis axles so that we can get more information from the smart bugs. So it's an ongoing piece of work. We are trying to meet the broad suggestions coming from TSB that we move forward with some kind of condition monitoring.
Sorry, I might have missed this, but when did the pilot start for these smart bugs?
That started before Christmas, so I think it was November time, 2022.
Sorry, one last question before we go. Has the city considered replacing any section of track, re-engineering, redesigning it, anything like that?
Well, there have been sections of track that were replaced relatively recently within the tunnel. And so as per any LRT system, we have an ongoing maintenance program. When sections of track are meeting their maintenance tolerances, their maintenance limits, then RTG puts in place a replacement program. In terms of what may come out of the work that is being undertaken now to determine the root cause, we're not aware at this stage whether that would result in any changes to the track design or to the track infrastructure at this point.
Thank you for that, Richard. And that actually brings us to the end of today's media availability. That's all the time we had. I want to very much thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. Have a good day.